The Abbotsford crew, well drilled unit so they are very tidy, probably outrating the other crews by a fraction, but they are rowing well together. The timing is right on, and they are very evenly paced and are slowly drawing away. So it's going to be an exciting finish here, but the crew on the inside from Abbotsford seems to be drawing away, and they're drawing away. They've dropped one Leichhardt crew well, and the other Leichhardt crew is battling away on the far side, but it's certainly this crew in lane one. So the Abbotsford crew of Yvonne Koenig, Yesnow, Catherine Nato and Rosemary Hancock working really hard. You can see a slight difference in the body lean, but they are powering through. They are probably now clear water, and the finish line is not far away, and Abbotsford finish one very well and clear of lane 3, and the two Leichhardt crews now rowing in. The crew in lane 4, Suella Day, Doreen Borg, Debbie Chun, Kelly Dwyer, coached by Charles Lloyd Jones, across the line now. And the final Leichhardt crew, Sarah Van Vesthuizen, Simone Pardia, Susan Stein, Tanya O'Day, coached by James Harrowell, coming across the line now. Next event is the women's under 16 single scull. This is a really well attended. There are going to be 3 divisions of the women's under 16 single scull. We have some changes. Stand by. Okay, Division 1. In the women's under 16 single scull, Division 1 is going to be in lane 1, Leichhardt, Grace Connery, coached by Isaac Shepherd. In lane 2, from St Catherine's, Sarah Rupnick Williams. Lane 3, from Glebe, is Kelly Clifton, and she's coached by Robin Mackney. Lane 4 is Georgie Schmidt from St Catherine's. And lane 5 is a scratching from Division 1, and she will be rowing in Division 2. First division of the women's under 16 scull, lining up. Some really lovely and great potential rowers rowing in this. Lane 1 will be Leichhardt's Grace Connery. Lane 2, St Catherine's Sarah Ripnick Williams. Lane 3 from Glebe, Kelly Clifton, coached by Robin Mackney. So it'll be interesting to see how she has imparted how she wants her to row. In lane 4 from St Catherine's, Georgie Schmidt. There has been a change. Lane 5 from St Catherine's, Evie Lloyd, is no longer in this race, and she has been moved to race 4. And lining up at the start now. Starter calling them to tap up and get an even line. Very light winds now, and they are away. So they're racing in the first division, the under 16 single scull for women, and we'll try and get a handle on who is leading. It appears that lane 1, Grace Connery may have pushed her boat a canvas or so ahead of a very even line of lanes 2, 3 and 4, and that being St Catherine's 2 crews and 8, and the glebe rower Kelly Clifton. So they manufacture their way now down to just short of halfway, and Grace Connery at Leichhardt with a lovely flow to her rowing really nicely, and she is well clear now of lane 3 and 4, and those 3 rowers have probably dropped lane 2, and we have a navigational issue with lane 1 well clear of lane 2, but rowing probably in her water, and lane 2 coming close to lane 1. So the BROs will straighten this up, but we have lane 1, Grace Connery, Leichhardt, with a very easy flowing length to her moving the boat, and she has moved clear now from lane 3 and lane 4 on the far side, which is Georgie Smith of St Catherine's, and there looks to be a little more breeze on that side than there is on this side of the course, as they're coming now into the last 10 or 12 strokes. Grace Connery clear water and flowing that and lifting her rating, even though she has the rest of the field covered, and she is clear water again from 2nd and 3rd, so the race will be on for the 3rd podium position. Lane 1 on the far side battling, and there's Grace Connery from Leichhardt, a clear leader. Lane 3 from Glebe is crossing the road, crossing the finish line now. Lane 2 coming in is about 1 stroke away from the finish. She's across, and Georgie Smith on the far side with a couple of strokes to go to finish her race.
Well, big surprise here because we've got the 3 divisions going. This is division number 2 of the women's under-16 scull. And we understand there's been one, I think, withdrawal from here. That's Evie Lloyd from St Catherine's is out. And you've got, hang on, wait a minute. Made a mistake already, division 2. I think we've got 2 out from St Catherine's, Aranji and Innes. And that leaves us with, good heavens, with 3. That was Evie Lloyd, I assume. Evie Lloyd from St Catherine's is now in lane 5 on the far side of the course. So we've got 1, 2, 3 scullers there. So on this side, St Catherine's, Stella, Olin, Derek, Smith. And in the middle there, we've got Glebe's Giselle Dueza, coached by Galea and Klotz from Glebe. And then St Catherine's Eve Lloyd on the far side of the course. Well, that's the Glebe sculler. Well, I think that's the glebe sculler Giselle Duesa that's gone across the line in first place. That is glebe. Yeah, glebe. And we must say that glebe has done extremely well in this series of racing with their scullers and the training and coaching they've given them. And Giselle Duesa, one of the results of that, in second place coming down here at obviously one of the St Catharines scullers. And that would be Evie Lloyd in second place. And the third place sculler would have to be then Stella Olin Derek Smith in lane 1, and that is the case. So Glebe takes the win again. They've done extremely well in under 16 racing, and congratulations. These are quite, compared with what has happened over the last couple of few weeks, as a matter of fact, ever since Glebe started off the Regatta series this year. Glebe have done a wonderful job up there on the Blackwattle Bay, and apart from the fact that they've had perhaps a few problems with training and coaching up there with the water and the busyness on Blackwattle Bay, that they've done extremely well, particularly with coaching of young scullers. And often in the early hours of the morning, they've been out there rowing up past the old moored boats and the ferries and the luxury items that we now see up at Blackwattle Bay, and it's paid off well for them. Still one more division to go, division number 3 of the women's under 16 sculls, and we understand that LV Liston from St Catharines, originally in lane 1, has been scratched from that, which gives us 2 St Catharines scullers, Phoebe Sherrod in lane 2, and Ginger Campbell in lane 4, representing the college, and Stella Moore right in the middle, coached by well-known Milan Parker over at Glebe. And with Glebe's record, money would be on the Glebe sculler in the centre, but it's wonderful to see the young ladies from St Catharines racing here today, Phoebe Shepherd and Ginger Campbell. And the young lady coming in on the pontoon down at Leichhardt now, that's Giselle Duesa, who just won Division 2 of the women's under 16 scull. And we need to acknowledge the fact that perhaps the crowds at this regatta are not as they used to be, because there is the Sydney to Surf racing on today and the great big run, but the whole series has lacked the numbers in the competition that we've seen, and work will be on in the coming months to make sure that the programming of the regatta, that is the time that it starts off, whether one knows that it's either the end of the previous season or the start of the next season. And perhaps the weather hasn't been all that fortunate, but the racing has been absolutely tremendous. And Greg Smith, who was the Australian boat race official who has been at every one of these races, has made comment on the way in which particularly the novices and the young people have been racing and showing the proficiency that they have on the water. And that's a compliment coming from Greg, because Greg was in fact the main one of the main stewards up there at the Japan Olympics, which was held in 2021, as I recall. COVID was rampant, and when you think about it, things have not been the same since we had COVID. The employment is down, and there's no reason to be miserable, because if you watched the soccer last night, it wasn't that exciting. Absolutely excitement, particularly with the penalty count right at the end. people at an advanced age should not be allowed to watch television under those circumstances. There would be many heart attacks going on last night with watching what was going on. A magnificent spectacle. But Australian, New South Wales people in particular shouldn't be too concerned. 59,000 they had, and New South Wales, I think, when they had it, and at the Australian stadium, we had 85,000. So we can produce those sorts of things. And talking about New South Wales women, here we come now with the women's under 16 scull. This is Division 3. Well, here it is. We've got the two St Catherine's young ladies coming down here now, Phoebe Sherrod and Ginger Campbell. No show from Stella Moore, who was representing Glen and coached by Melanne Parker, because she would have been a dead set. Good bet if we had the boogies down here, but you've got Phoebe Sherrod closest to us, and on the far side of the course, that's from the far side from Leichhardt, you have Ginger Campbell, also from St Catherine's. Well, it's fairly even rowing, and we're not seeing the rate that we saw from the young sculler from Connery, who was had the rate up, and she looked extremely good candidate for under 16 category. But these two scullers down here, this is going to be very close racing, and surprisingly, they've brought the finishing line back from the traditional spot at the 800 or 900 metre mark. They've brought it down, so this racing would be over about 560, 600 metres, 650 metres. And we'll talk more about that in just one moment. Here we have, it's lovely to see young people giving it a good go. And it's the excitement that's building up here now, almost the same as we saw last night in the penalty shootout. In fact, this is the equivalent of a penalty shootout here. Both started off at the same time, and it's very close.
Yeah, I'm still getting, on the live results page, I'm still only getting lane calls.
Is that Sherrod, Greg? Sherrod got it. Phoebe Sherrod, St Catherine's. That's what you saw?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No. Was it what was the result? 5 there.
You want to see the replay again?
Had a 5 on the lane. Right.
It's 5. In a moment, we'll be giving you the official placings for that. I think the lanes were lane 5, lane 1. The next event, race number 6 on the program, is the Men's Open Double Scull. And 3 starters there from Leichhardt. We have Peter Simkovic and Dylan Lee. Young Guns, coached by Isaac Shepherd of Leichhardt. From Glebe, well, here's a double. Mark Tesian and Kenny Major of the Stroll Masters group, and would be one of the favoured crews in this event. And then on the far side, from the University of New South Wales, we have Eskil Sakrason and Marcus Black, coached by Chris Burns, who's done a wonderful job over at the University of New South Wales in the last 12 months. Well, it is fairly close between the two crews there, Leichhardt, Simkovic and Lee, who are the young guns, and from a very well-developed junior group, coached by Isaac Shepherd here at Leichhardt, and Glebe Mark Tijan, who also does the commentary and the racing up at the International Regatta Centre with the old stager Kenny Major. And Kenny Major still getting the same length that he got when he was a teenager, representing the Glebe Rowing Club. And it will be Glebe that take the win in the men's open double scull. And second place if they hang on there. And a good race coming from the Leichhardt crew of Sinkovic and Lee. They will take second place, and third place then will go to the crew from the University of New South Wales. Eskil Sacrison and Marcus Black in third place, the men's open double scull. Is it on this one? Well, the next events we're talking about now, the women's novice quad scull. And of course the rules provide for if you haven't won a race in this series, or if you haven't faced a starter before, you then move into the novice class. There are two divisions in this, and in the first of those divisions, the race due to start right on the dot at 10. Now, one of the features of today's racing, and it's due to the efforts of Mr. Tully from or Bob Tiley, and also from Balmain Club, I think it is, one of the descendants of a professional sculler up there, racing in the old traditional tub fours. Now, we haven't seen tub fours since they were eliminated from the school rowing. And in earlier rowing days, that four that was used by the schools in the tub fours were replaced at clubs by a thing called the regulation four, which was wide as a tub, but it was a very old timber boat, normally built in ply or in some sort of cedar, but generally they were built in those years when they were using the ply on the boats. And we'll be seeing those in action today with two crews, as I understand. We'll talk more about that later. But this is the women's novice quad scull. And once again, we appreciate the efforts of St. Catherine's in making their way down here to row in two of the crews. From Glebe in lane 1, we have Mia Gottlieb, Sophie McLeana, Stella Lagan and Ava Picklum. They're coached by, once again, Nick Galea and Lizzie Dorian. From St. Catherine's in number 2 lane, we have Florence Vanell, Bo Lepinis, Bernie McGregor and Jasmine Matheson. In lane 3 from Leichhardt, we have Helen Dunn, Carolyn Lonergan, Leonie Bryan and Leslie Harrison. From Leichhardt, they're coached by Charles Lloyd Jones. And then right on the far side will be another of the St. Catherine's crews, Harriet Clune, Sophia Krishenko, Bailey Villeneuve and Chloe Crabb. Well, once again, the Iron Cove is an amazing course. It's had various racing pieces done over it until probably about 15 years ago. They did survey a course that was covered the 2,000 metres in attempting to have the finish just past Haberfield Rowing Club. Of course, that survey of 2,000 metres used to start off at a position up there called the Logs, where a lot of timber was parked there before it was milled here in Sydney. And of course, top elite championship events at international standards can't be rowed under a bridge. Although in recent years we've seen it done, I think, in Japan, where it was rowed under a bridge. But nevertheless, the rules out here state that it's not to be rowed under a bridge, and so the racing has varied over the shorter distances. At one stage, the start used to be right at the end of Leichhardt Canal, which is the canal that runs from Marion Street on the trip to Abbotsford, and down at that end, and they'd race down the canal and out towards the Iron Cove. It would take two crews, and the race, which was generally combined and organised by both Haberfield Rowing Club and Leichhardt Rowing Club, was called the Henley. The Henley on Hawthorn, which was the name of the canal, Hawthorn Canal. Just an interesting bit of trivia. Of course, in twice the width that it is now. Yeah. The Henley on the what? Henley on the drain. Oh, well, Liam's just telling me that I was calling it Henley on Hawthorn because it was already in those days. I'm going back to the 1960s, of course. The Henley on the Hawthorn it was called, but it was in fact the drain that used to take all the water back from Campsie and all those places that came out at that stage. It was always a bit of a mess, but it was called Henley on the drain, so Liam tells me. Oh dear. Yep. In fact, Liam's just called it up on his computers here. It was called the Henley on the Drain. It's amazing. It's an amazing waterway down here. Unbelievable. One of the last of the passive waterways left in Sydney Harbour. Well, look, I'm sure that the hundreds of thousands of people who are gathering down here today, Liam just managed to pull up a poetry verse related to the Henley on the Drain. But nevertheless, I think we're just about to race on the start. Is it possible to get back to those verses again, Liam? Here it is. Here it is. This is a quote from the Henley on the Drain. This goes back, do we have an idea of what date this was?
Yeah, so this was
1912. It was around about the time of the first attempt by Australia to participate in the Olympic Games, and in fact the Australian crew was an amazing crew. In fact, I think one of the members of both Balmain and Leichhardt crew in fact rode in that in 1912. But here is Henley on the Drain, and we've got a paragraph.
Harry, you're wrong. Stop home and you know who was in that crew. They had to change it.
What about Houndstein? I'm being challenged here. This is Phil Sharp. This is an embarrassment. You are challenging my assessment. Houndstein rode in 1912, and he also rode for Leichhardt.
Yeah. And Sydney won the head of the other grade.
We're not going to mention Sydney Rowing
No,
Club.
but they did, and they changed the crew, and the guy from Tasmania went out, and Wade came in. And the crew that beat them in the challenge beat them, and they ended up racing off the third. They came forward.
Well, because you're here today, we will only make mention of Haberfield Rowing Club and Leichhardt Rowing Club. Is that fair? Where's that? Now listen, Phil, where's Dr. Phil? Is Phil there? No, he's still there. Phil, we're going to mention Haberfield Rowing Club. Listen to the poem. Phil Sharp, Dr. Phil Sharp. You've got to find it now. You got it yet? The one that mentioned Haberfield. Right, it's coming on now. This is filling in time. This is known as filling in time. Now, we'll get that poem. This is amazing. Liam James is unbelievably incredible. He's got the Henley on the Drain. Here it is now. This relates to the drain, which is now known as Hawthorne Canal, which is half the size it was going back many years ago.
Give me the address and I'll put it up next as right reply.
Right up.
Put it up as right reply straight after this.
Right up. Now, this is a statement on it. Oh, what a joyous time there'll be at Henley on the Drain when Leichhardt's aristocrats go forth to watch us train. When Haberfield's Leander crew goes sprinting might and main, oh, won't there be a great to-do at Henley on the Drain? Oh, everyone's sighing. Anyway, that was great. Well done.
Alright, so where's Phil? Apparently they were in trouble about that.
We're still waiting on getting the crews lined up for the Women's Novice Quad Scull, First Division. Now, Houndstein was in that 1912 Australian crew, wasn't he? I think he was.
A bit young for a bit older than my time, Barry.
Well, I remember it well. I'm pretty sure. And Houndstein was in he rode in the Peace Regatta crew at Henley in 1919. So he rode a fair bit of time. But he's on the honour board up at Balmain Rowing Club, Houndstein. He spoke very well of you too, Liam, I might add. Houndstein.
Did you do that with a regional board or?
Amazing what the communication systems they had in those days. Look, what we're talking about, the JB Sharp series and the efforts on the water, it's amazing how things return. There are plans afoot to have a Leichhardt swimming pool, only a proposal, up near where the start is today in the next event, the Women's Novice Quad Scull. They plan to put a harbour pool in up there, and years ago there were two pools in Iron Cove. One was across the far side over on the Drummoyne side. I'm not talking about the Olympic pool or the area over near Drummoyne Rowing Club. I'm talking about on the opposite side of Rod Island. There was a seawater pool there, and at the same time there was a seawater pool down where the finish normally is of the JB Sharp Regatta. Great big pools. And the pool down here at Leichhardt was very similar to the Dawn Fraser pool, which is up at Balmain at the present moment. So a lot has taken place down here over the last few years. The fact is the JB Sharp today is being held in calm water. That's another new thing to happen today. It's wonderful weather down here, smooth water. And those crews now are on deck. The first division, 2 divisions of the Women's Novice Quad Scull. Now there are 4 crews up there. On this side of we start off with the Glebe combination: Maya Gottlieb, Sophie McLeana, Stella Lagan and Ava Picklum. The next crew over in lane 2 from St Catherine's: Florence Fennell, Bo Lepinis, Birdie McGregor, Jasmine Matheson. And then in lane 3, Helen Dunn, Carolyn Lonergan. Now, these young ladies come from Leichhardt with Leonie Bryan and Leslie Harrison. I think Leslie Harrison used to row for Sydney University Women. Is anyone able to confirm that Leslie Harrison used to row for Sydney University Women? She didn't. No, it's all right. The name Harrison rang a bell, and Professor John Harrison was a man whose daughter did row over there, a Harrison surname, but and he developed with Professor Cotton the well-known rowing machine. Well, we have a start in the Women's Novice Quad Scull, First Division, and Leichhardt 3, the last crew there from St Catherine's on the far side: Harriet Clune, Sophia Krishenko, Bailey Villeneuve and Chloe Crabb. Well, a good start, particularly from the crew over here from Glebe, and we've starting to got about a canvas lead at the present moment over the 2 St Catherine's and the Leichhardt combination, but well, the Leichhardt crew in lane 3 appears to have moved in now into lane 2, and that's always seems to happen with novice scullers. They've changed lanes. Unlike the International Regatta Centre, which is buoyed, there's always the issue of steering, and the Leichhardt crew, as you can see from now, the crew over here in lane 1, the Glebe crew, are now running the risk of having a broadside into one of the crews from St Catherine's, I think it is, and they've been rescued by the boat race official. This is a very interesting event, this one is turning out, with the steering issues that they're having out there, but not unexpected, and it's great to see these 4 crews making their way down here. But the Leichhardt crew, surprisingly, with Dunn, Lonergan, Bryan and Harrison, have moved probably into the race lead, but only just by about a half a length, because the crew that's been rowing down there in lane 4 from St Catherine's is starting to make a move as they approach the island. Oh, the cheers are starting to go up now. This is a close one coming up between the school and the Masters category from Leichhardt. We're going to have to see the accuracy coming up here. Oh, the cheers are going up now. This is an exciting finish coming up here. This is the penalty shootout repeated from last night as they come up, and Leichhardt still in the lead. They go across the line. This is the crew from lane number 3. It's so close. We're going to have to wait. This will be a photo finish. And which one's got it? Well, the race surprisingly goes, and this is like a penalty shootout. Now you keep your suspense, but it's Leichhardt number 3, take the win. Oh dear. And then St Catherine's, that's the Catherine's crew from lane 4, they take second place. Well, look, unbelievably, they won by about a canvas. Leichhardt number 3, taking it, and back to St Catherine's. So really, it's a Masters crew, and I think that Masters crew will comprise one of the 11 crews that are going down to the Yarra for the head of the Yarra coming up in November. And I think just about all the what's that? That's 88 people. And then you've got your coxswains. So it's 1188. That's nearly 100 competitors going from the Leichhardt Rowing Club down for the head of the Yarra. And I think those women that we've marked there will be part of that contingent. Dunn, Lonergan, Bryan and Harrison. Well, the second division is on the line at the present moment, due to start at 10:05. St Catherine's have withdrawn. That only leaves us with the University of New South Wales and Leichhardt Rowing Club. And the crew that's closest to us will be the University of New South Wales with Sunny Park, Helen Frith, Adelaide Webster and Annabelle Hayworth, coached by Chris Burns once again. And from Leichhardt we have Jan McClellan, Karen Bateman, Jane Cadwagon, Carolyn Childs, former Olympians, all of them. Charles Lloyd Jones as the coach there. I'm only joking about former Olympians, of course. But anyway, they're in the Masters Women's, and I think they're also going down to, or some of them also going down to the head of the Yarra. Now, the name Kemp, I think his name was Peter Kemp, was a former professional sculler in the 1800s. He had a property up at Ebenezer on the Hawkesbury River. And the Hawkesbury River is still in that name and occupied by his family, which includes a Michael Kemp. Now, if you ever go up to Ebenezer, which I think is one of the first churches I think ever built up there at Ebenezer. Michael's hobby is, in fact, apart from producing a champion son at swimming, is repairing and replacing very old timber sculls and timber boats. He's got a large factory-type shed up there where he has done all this work over the years in restoration of these old cedar and ply boats, some of them very famous. The tub that he has got, and they've been able to get, with assistance from Mick Taylor, who's also some sort of historian, will be competing here today in one of the races. The men's, I think, in the 4 later on. In this event, this is the novice scull division number 2 on its way, and I'll tell you more about the timber boats a little later. This is the women's novice quad sculls 2nd division. 2 crews. On this side, the University of New South Wales, which appear to have about a 3 or 4 length lead at the present moment, and followed by Leichhardt, their number 2 crew of McClellan, Bateman, Cadwagon and Childs, and coached by Charles Lloyd Jones. Well, I don't know whether it's a reflection off the water or not, but is that boat lime green or some pale green colour? What is it? It's aquamarine blue, is it? Well, one of the experts on boats seems to think it's an old Kinross boat, and that's Owen Nix, who's down here from he's a regatta secretary from New South Wales Rowing. And it's University of New South Wales that take the win there. And second place will be the Leichhardt combination. Well done to both crews, and in that, the 2nd division of the women's novice quad scull. And
That was Division 2.
we'll go straight now to give you a little bit of talk while they're talking about it, about these timber boats. The tub 4s are very historic, and so the race that you will see them in, and we'll mention when they are rowing, is a very historic race comprising tub 4s. Now, the tub 4 used to be used by the schools many years ago, the GPS colleges, when they row. They were later replaced at club level by regulation 4s, which were more like a racing shell. So they've managed to find 2 of these old relics that have been restored, and the tub that's used by Balmain Rowing Club, I think there are 2 crews or 2 clubs represented in this event, which will be held later on this morning. The Balmain men, or the Balmain crew, are rowing. The boat they're using was found at Bathurst in 218. Now, Joe Martin was instrumental in getting a rowing club going out at Bathurst, and a number of clubs donated old boats to the club. When the club folded, due to lack of members, a large amount of old wooden boats were placed in a big ammunition shed that was used during the war. Now, the regulation 4 that the Balmain ladies are rowing was found at Horsham City Rowing Club in 2018. Now, a number of old boats were collected by Michael Kemp. He's the man who's from Ebenezer at the time, including 2 very old James Edwards and Sons clinker boats, and a 1955 Donoratico 8 that was used by the Italian team in the 1956 Olympics. Now, the 8, and if you get a chance, and you can inquire from Balmain Rowing Club how to make contact with Michael, but he has this large shed up at Ebenezer, and apart from the fact that it's a very interesting spot, it's a wonderful drive up there, and for those people that would be interested in inspecting those boats, there is a wonderful hotel about 200 metres on the southern side where you can get a wonderful counter lunch. And it's up near, you might recall the old Sydney town that used to run up there. It was supposed to look very much like Circular Quay. I think it's still open rather irregularly at this stage, but it's still there. and that's the direction you're heading, and that's where Webb or Kemp has these magnificent collection of timber boats, 2 of which you'll see racing here today. Now, in the meantime, we have now the women's or the men's novice single scull. As you can see, there are 4 starters. Now, we might start talking from the far side of the course this time. That will be lane number 4 from the University of New South Wales. He's on the far side. That's Marcus Black, coached by Chris Burns. Then we have in lane number 3, the glebe sculler, Arlo Pollock, coached by Nick Galea. In lane 2 out from the Leichhardt shed, we have Robbie Island, also coached by Burns. And then in lane 1, on this side of the course, we have Connor Walker, coached by Galea. Well, he doesn't carry a number, but I thought that sculler over there in lane 4, that's the young fellow over there, could be the Marcus Black. We'll have to find out from official. I think that could be Marcus Black over there. The second place would be going to University of New South Wales. Third place will go to Glebe. And 4th place, well, the only one for 4th would be the glebe sculler at the rear of the field, and that might be Arlo Pollock. We'll wait on official placings, but it looks like it could be 3, 2, 4, 1. What is it? 4, 2, 1, 3.
That's right. If it hasn't been remixed, are you sure it's really happened?
Yep. That's fine. That's really good.
Well, if it's 16 billion, a lot of people haven't been born yet.
So the official placing's now been confirmed that the race would go to the University of New South Wales, Marcus Black. Second place will go to the University of New South Wales, Robbie Island. And then third place to Connor Walker from Glebe, and 4th place to Glebe's Arlo Pollock. So getting back to these timber boats, it's a very interesting one because the appearance of these old timber racing shells,
What do they use to do it?
known as the, I think for this series, and I think in New South Wales rowing, there was the what they called the tub pairs, and they were a coxed pair built like a mini surf boat. In fact, I recall many years ago in the 1960s, there was an attempt by a club to row from round about this area from Iron Cove across to Manly and return, and see if they could clock a time for then, in the interest of raising funds for the particular club. And they did that in 3 hours and 10 minutes, racing in a tub pair. There were a couple of tub pairs that went over there. One was from Balmain, I think, and one was from Leichhardt. Racing across the heads, jumped out at Manly Beach, or Manly at on the harbour side, jumped back in the boat and back again, competing against the ferries and everything like that. That goes back many years ago. One of the strange things that a lot of strange people used to do in those days to raise a quid. Well, I think that wooden with the wooden boats will be on later this morning. I was thinking on event number 20, if I read it correctly. So stand by for that. We'll perhaps talk a little bit later about the old timber boats. But look, if you are interested in having a look at these old timber boats, the man to contact would be Balmain Rowing Club to get the phone number of it. I haven't got any contact numbers here, but I've got a little bit more information on an old boat, a wooden tub that's called the E-tub. It came from Shore Shed. So there's 3 tubs. And I think we might see 2 racing today, but there are 3 tubs available. I think it's in preparation also for the centenary of the JB Sharp series. And it's being enthusiastically supported by the Union of New South Wales Rowers. The New South Wales Union of Rowers has been around for nearly, quite a number of years now. And they are assisting in organising the JB Sharp's centenary, which occurs in the following season. That will include the use of these heritage boats. Now, we mentioned the background of 2 of them. We'll mention the 3rd one. Well, perhaps we'll do that now because we do have a row over on the waters. This was a tub from Shore Shed from Sergeant Burton, built it in 1974. It was made for novices, generally rowers at school. It was acquired by Rob Tiley from Leichhardt to train crews for the first LRC corporate regatta in 1996-97.
Oh, hang on. No, I know who you mean.
And was restored in 2023. So there we have it. You got boats that were acquired from Kemp's Boat Shed and from Rob Tiley. Now, in the meantime, this is a row over from the Glebe Club, and Glebe deserved to do well in the JB Sharp series because they had the first regatta on a cold day. It was freezing cold, but they had all their troops up there and they did a remarkable job. They've done extremely well. This is Mark McEwen, Chris Niche, Mark Tejan and Kenny Major in the stroke seat once again. And look, Kenny Major still looks like he was rowing when he was a teenager. Tejan does a good job as a commentator up there at the International Regatta Centre. And that crew, in spite of the fact they had no competition, absolutely rode remarkably well coming down over the 600 or 700 metres. The original course was scheduled for today was about, nearly 900 metres, 850, 900 metres. It has been reduced somewhat so the finish could be closer to the Leichhardt shed. Agreed to by the officials. Well, I've said before there was a at one stage I have seen, going back many years ago, what they call a seaplane, a single-engine seaplane, land down here at Iron Cove. Now I understand that the Metro rail tunnel is underneath the waters of Iron Cove, not far away. Now, the next event is a sight to be seen, and in the last few years, of course, it has been broken up into the men's handicap single sculls and the women's handicap single sculls. Race number 11 on your program, due to start at 10:40, is the women's handicap single scull. Now, as you can imagine, as the name suggests, it is a handicap sculling event. And for those people watching for the first time, they did have up to 30-odd scullers, nearly 40 scullers racing down here. Of course, it does get a little bit narrow as they go between Rod Island and the clubhouse here at Leichhardt. But the division of male and female has meant that they both are acknowledged, and it's a little bit safer. We have from Abbotsford will be the Go Sculler, Inez Rowe. She will be racing from and will be the first sculler to taste off. The second sculler will be Barak, formerly of Mossman, now with Leichhardt. She'll be racing off at the 10-second mark. We've already seen Kelly Clifton from Glebe Racing here today. She scored a second place, I think it was. And she'll be racing at the 22nd of mark. And all the remaining scullers will be starting off at 30 seconds. That will include Sam Backler from the University of New South Wales at the 32nd mark. Glebe's Poppy Hartley from Glebe. Yvonne Konchek from Abbotsford. Catherine Maxwell from Glebe. Catherine Nato from Abbotsford. Ming Yang from Glebe. Kate Warham from Glebe. And Anne Skilton also from Glebe. And the last sculler to take off at the 30-second mark is Monique Hike. Now, Monique Hike, I think, is a former Olympian. She went at least to 2.
How many Olympics? 2? Yeah.
Where is she? Is it? Good day, how are you? Monique Hike, she did the 2, didn't she?
Yeah, she missed
2 Olympics.
just missed out on the 3rd. Very close to making it.
Was that 2000, 2004? Yeah.
She's on 30 seconds. And their son just raced in the novice cup.
Really?
Yeah. He rode for University of New South Wales. He raced.
Well, he wouldn't be running it, Mike. What's his name? What's his surname? Who was his name? He wouldn't be high.
No, but entrance, you got the entrance there, the novice sculls, I think.
Oh, where are we? Gee whiz. Novice sculls, men's novice sculls. Where's men's novice sculls? Men's handicap. Men's novice single. There we are. Down the bottom. That's I believe. New South Wales.
We've got the entrance stuff. Oh, yeah, there you go. No, we've just had it. We've just had the novice scull.
Well, is it on this page?
No, you keep going back. We've already had it. We've just had it.
Men's novice single. That's it. Black.
Yeah, black.
Ah.
That's his dad. No, parents are both brothers. He doesn't just take it. He doesn't just take it.
Black not from Osman, was it?
No, he's from UTS. He rode for Australia in the low weight 8. Monique's his mum.
Yeah.
Let's get let him rest in peace. He's only just starting. He just doesn't know anything about it.
Well, that's an interesting one. In first place today in the men's novice single scull was Marcus Black. And Phil Sharp, who was the union's archivist virtually, has just mentioned that young Marcus Black is the son of Monique Hike. former Olympian from 2000 and 2004. Well, in this break, it's a chance to mention for all, particularly the Masters people are down here today, you may not have heard, and many of you may not have heard, of the Union, New South Wales Union of Rowers. And it's been going for many, many years now, and it's over the years, it's provided substantial funds for young people by way of bursaries in their attempts to just to take up the sport of rowing. It's not just for people who might be representing Australia or something like that. It's for young people right throughout country and regional New South Wales rowing clubs, as well as the clubs here in Sydney. And it's provided probably several $100,000 overall over all the years that it's been providing that. And of course, the members of the union mainly comprise people who have made a substantial contribution to the sport, and over the years it comprises Olympians, Australian representatives, champion oarsmen, people who are just starting off in rowing, who love to join, and they get the big reward by being informed of what's going on in New South Wales rowing, things that you won't hear from the New South Wales Rowing Association. They also provide some interesting archival material for people. And Dr. Phil Sharp, who is with us today as the New South Wales medico and advisor, is very much involved in the heritage side of New South Wales rowing. You probably guessed from some of the comments that are made today. So you will learn a lot about rowing. If you are not a member of the New South Wales Union of Rowers and you're interested, Terry Ma is the secretary. He's with us today, and he's located up here on the top level of the Leichhardt rowing shed, and he's very much involved in making sure that the results, the union and the JB Sharp particular regattas are held as they have been held over many years. Make sure that you can contact Terry if you're interested in it, because I can tell you that it's a wonderful association, the Union, New South Wales Union of Rowers. Currently it lists several hundred members right across New South Wales, including people from country areas. So if you get a chance, if you're interested, make the inquiry. You don't have to pay anything today. I think it's an annual fee of about $15. That's the annual fee of $15. But today is all about the JB Sharp Regattas, which is also a very historical aspect of New South Wales rowing.
Terry, we're about to get the skull. We're going to send the skull. I'll send it through to you. It'll be about a minute. I just want to make sure I don't miss the race.
Well, the skull is for the women's handicap single skull. Lighting up now. If you're running a little bit late, you better be moving very quickly to get up to the start. Due to start at 10:40. You can see the names racing there at the 22nd mark. You've got Kelly Clifton, who is racing today in the women's under 16 single sculls. and she'll be starting off at the 22nd mark. Starting off on go will be Inez Rowe from Abbotsford, and back amongst the 32nd starters will be Monique Hoink, former Olympian, a dual Olympian from 2000 and 2004. Monique Hoink, formerly of Haberfield Rowing Club, and I think Haberfield Rowing Club around about that time, of course, you had in the early 90s Jennifer Luff was another one, a dual Olympian, also came out of the Haberfield Rowing Club around about that time. She was racing 92 and again in 96. In 1992 it was in the first New South Wales crew to compete at an Olympics in the women's category. As you know, women in rowing had a tough time in the 70s and 71, 72. And of course, as we found with women's soccer, just starting off, women becoming very prominent in sport. And New South Wales rowing stopped women, or not didn't stop it, but they perhaps were a little bit slow in getting off the ground. In 1988, no women were selected to represent Australia at Olympics, particularly from New South Wales. In previous years, there had been attempts, but mainly they included the Victorians from South Australia. But New South Wales women were prevented from representing in 1988. In 1992, first New South Wales combination was Gillian Campbell and Jennifer Luff. Jennifer Luff, of course, from Haberfield Rowing Club, previously had rowed at Nepean. And Jennifer rowed in the double in 92, and again in the 8. I think she rowed in the bow seat of the 8 in 1996. Well, you can see the women now starting to line up there. I'm not quite sure whether they, in the order that they race and where the go starter would be, whether at one end or the other. But anyway, we'll see the start go off. That'll be Inez Rowe. And she's representing the Abbotsford Club, formerly known as Sydney Women's MLC. Good. Yeah. Well, here we have the start in the women's handicap sculls now, and even the 30-second markers are away and running. Inez Rowe from Abbotsford will be passed, no doubt, by some of these more experienced scullers going. I'm a bit interested to see if we can find out where the Kelly Clifton is. Now, in theory, if this is all working, you'll find that those that are off the 30-second mark will start to move through the field, which is only, at this stage, the field will be M. Barak from Leichhardt and Inez Rowe from Abbotsford, the starters. You can see the faster scull is now starting to move up. Now this is recorded because it's so difficult to pick the actual individual, because this obviously is an individual event. As they go across the line, it is tape recorded, and then the officials then can verify that those that should be awarded first, second and third. And of course this has been the 5th of the races that have occurred in this current JB Sharp series. Now there are numbers, and we can probably identify them as they come up to the line. Well, certainly it's got the well, the officials now making sure that they have the numbers of those. Oh, gee whiz. Oh, that was... just make sure that you clear the course for the remaining scullers coming through. Careful. The official placings should be with us shortly, but just from what we could see here, I thought Poppy Hartley from Glebe managed to ride up amongst the leaders, so it could be a Glebe win there, but we'll wait and get the official placings because it is rather difficult in matching up the numbers on the bow. They are given a number associated with their club, obviously, and then they register the colours, and until they verify everything according to the tape, well, we'll just hold back. Well, the next event will be the men's handicap single scull, and we've got a mix of names and the handicaps that they'll be getting. Of course, on the start, on the go scullers would be Josh Dallymore from Glebe, and joined with Sebastian Blore, also of Glebe, and they will be the two go scullers. Most inexperienced. And then we move to the 20-second markers, which will then include Robert Dallymore, Carter Clifton, we saw racing here earlier on today. I'll be on 20 seconds along with Bryn Potter from Sydney Grammar School. And then at the 30-second mark, we will have Eskil Zachrison, coached by Chris Burns from the University of New South Wales. And he's joined by Christopher Niche, also from Glebe, at the 30-second mark. Well, in the men's handicap single scull, Glebe, of course, another strong force in this category of racing. And once again, congratulations to Glebe, who from the very first of the series were able to get up a number of young people into the novice, the under 16 category for both men and women. And the administration round there, they've done well in the last 3 seasons in the JB Sharp Series. They're very, very strong on the development as well as their Masters category, have done quite well, particularly with names like Macney and Kenny Major, people of that ilk. They've done extremely well with the development of their young juniors. And it would be in the hope that many of the clubs referred to now as community rowing clubs continue to push for and develop their junior rowers in the junior category. Most important. Well, there's been one official scratching from the men's handicap scale. That would be Dallimore, or Regatta rather. Regatta from Glebe. Which leaves us with 7 scullers.
Really? They didn't think that through? That's just ridiculous. We've got the results for women's handicap.
Have you? Thanks.
One second, I'll make it a bit easier to see. Can you see those at all?
Well, Liam James has been able to provide us now with a summary of the placings. And the first place in the handicap sculls for women was from Abbotsford. And was carrying, I think, the number 1. We've got a name down there. That would be Rowe from Abbotsford. In second place, Barak from Leichhardt. In third place, it goes to Kelly Clifton from Glebe. Back to Backler from the University of New South Wales. In fifth place from UTS, Monique Hike, the former dual Olympian. And from Glebe, Skilton, coached by Robin Mackney. And in seventh place, it would go to, I think it's Hartley from Glebe. So they're the top 7 places. In the men's handicap scull, all have started. And the 2 go scullers there, Dallimore from Glebe and Sebastian Bloor also from Glebe. Glebe in the big names there with 6 or 5 or 6 of the scullers, I think, from the Glebe Rowing Club. They'll be joined by Bryn Potter, and from the University of New South Wales, Eskil Zachrison. So there've been 2 have dropped out. I don't know whether they are from other than the Glebe Club, but Glebe's still dominant with their numbers. And as you can see, movement coming from the far side of the course. A good race coming up here. Will be a very close finish. Once again, you can see the leading sculler there trying hard to keep out in front, and leads by about a length, being dwindled down. As you can see, the sculler second from the far side, right in the middle, starting to approach. There's about 70 metres to go, 100 metres to go, and close racing coming up with the top 3 placings. And I think neither of them are carrying bow numbers, but heavens above, what a struggle is coming up. This is like another penalty shootout, and there they are. Well, it might be a little bit later now, but look, just a reminder, if for next year, make sure that you have your number of your club, or that you have on your entries on the bow of the boat. Very difficult for the boat race officials when they have groups coming down this arch to identify correctly the places. They managed to do it with the women. Once again, the women had all their numbers on. Men, you're going to have the sheep up, men. Let them up.
Did you get those, or do you need any?
I'll give you the races at another convenient time. In the meantime, the next race, race 13, due to start at 11 o'clock. That's the men's intermediate quad scull. Now, some of you may be known, but or new to the sport here at this particular regatta. But can I mention this to you, that this regatta is being live streamed? It has been so for the last 2 seasons, and it's done through the marvellous technical support of Liam James and Stephen Crute. Now, Stephen has long been associated with the development of the entry system for New South Wales rowing, and was involved at a time when pressure was being put on New South Wales to adopt another system. And now, without going into the politics, Rowing Australia were involved in attempting to get the American system introduced in Australia. New South Wales resisted, and as a result, with good PR and a good work and much work done by Stephen Crute through his expertise, has convinced entries right throughout New South Wales to follow the system that he in fact installed, and for entry fees and entries for the various clubs at all the club regattas right throughout New South Wales. It's a system now used right throughout Australia. So well done to Stephen Crute, and for the introduction of the up-to-date technology also with Stephen and with Liam James, who have done a great work in presenting regattas to the various people who are interested but can't be down here today.
Too much. I do not need any more shout-outs today. We need more for yourself, more for anyone else.
Also, can I say that they're both men full of humility. Well, the next event, the men's intermediate quad scull from Leichhardt, Lewis Stewart, Robert Head, James Esther, and Nitesh Shetty, coached by Margaret Bailey. And I'll be joined with the University of New South Wales combination of Nityam Bansal, Robbie Island, Eskil Zacharson, and Marcus Black. Now, Marcus Black, who's rowing for the University of New South Wales, I think their son has rowed here today, was very successful in the younger junior categories. And Marcus Black, I think he might be married to Monique Hink.
There we go, I think so.
There we go. So, Mum and Dad, congratulations and well done. Lovely to see the family that rows together stays together. So, it porters well for Marcus Black and Monique Hink. Well, the men's intermediate quad scull up and running, and the University of New South Wales crew on the far side of the course. That's the crew of Bansal Island, Zachrison and Marcus Black, coached by Chris Burns. And the crew closest to us here from Leichhardt is Lewis Stewart, Robert Head, James Etter and Nitesh Shetty. And they're fairly even coming down here. The angle of the finishing line, I think, will probably indicate that it could be the University of New South Wales crew leading by about 3/4 of a length at this stage as they move down. A good attempt coming from Leichhardt to make up the ground behind them, but a very experienced combination here, as you can imagine, with Bansal Island, Zachrison and Black. And in fact, both crews showing a lot of style, with about 100 metres to go in the men's intermediate quad scull. And the words intermediate was used many years ago in the classifications that are still used in this series. At that stage, and certainly it's the University of New South Wales taking out the men's intermediate quad scull. And second place will go to Leichhardt. Now the categories used in this series, of course, are novice, intermediate, under 16s, the age category, and then we have the open category. Different grades to what is used in rowing New South Wales, but really once you've won your novice event, you move up to intermediate, and a name suggests then you choose then to row in the intermediate category, or if you can row in the open category. The original extent or the intent of the whole series is to perhaps give the opportunity to young people coming into the sport, and to those that are starting to move into the sport, the opportunity of competition before the season starts proper. The JB Sharp series, traditionally up to the last few years, has been at the end of the previous season, but now, quite rightly, it's becoming at the start of the following season. And it's a good effort then for clubs to enter for competition. The youngsters and the young people, and even the masters category, who are just starting off in the sport, before they move to the head racing, which is generally conducted around September or October. Well, the next event on the program is the Women's Open 8. Only one starter from there. That's not unusual in this category of racing. I know when Haberfield were holding their regattas, it was the UTS crew were able to bowl at the 8s, but it's a feature of rowing. It's always wonderful to see the 8-oar crews racing, whether it's here or anywhere on the courses in New South Wales. In this case, it's a Leichhardt combination, and we have Karen Bateman, Doreen Borg, Leslie Harrison, Jan McClelland, Kelly Dwyer, Jane Cadwagon, Debbie Chan, and Kylie Downs. Nancy Wilkhurst is the coxswain, and they're coached by Charles Lloyd-Jones. I suppose the Leichhardt crew here would be best described as being in the Masters category. It's one of those crews that you will find in every community rowing club, as they are now described, and it generally comprises those people who do a lot of work off the water in supporting the club and what it does, whether it's in the communication systems, whether it's in cleaning, maintenance, and whatever. They certainly assist, and not just in the Leichhardt Club, but in every club, particularly in those country clubs. Well, it's probably fair to say also that the women coming down in this Leichhardt Open 8 don't get the chance to take the gold medal at many of the regattas, but they are nevertheless fiercely competitive. And as I said before, they are the hard workers in the shed that do much to maintain the sport of rowing. And they're doing a fine job coming down here. They probably won't make the Olympics, but nevertheless they put their heart and soul into rowing. And with about 150 metres still to go, Karen Bateman, Doreen Borg, Leslie Harrison and Jan McClellan have been in a boat for many, many years, along with Kelly Dwyer, Jane Cadwagon, Debbie Chung and Kylie Downs. Nancy Walkest is the coxswain, which does a magnificent job down here with looking after the kitchen and all those sorts of places like that. And they're doing a fine job. Heavens above, they're doing a great job. They come down the line, and if you give them a round of applause, these are club people who really have made an effort. I'm amazed. Well done. Thanks for that. Well done. Yep. Well, the next event, starting at 11:20, is the women's novice single scull. And between Glebe and the University of New South Wales. The closest sculler to Leichhardt, that's in lane 1, will be from Glebe. That's Stella Lagan. And from the University of New South Wales, it's Sunny Park. and it is public news at the present moment that Leichhardt Rowing Club will be having its elections at the annual general meeting coming up in a week's time, and one of the great presidents that we've had over many years has been Stephen Duff, and unfortunately Stephen will be standing down, but he'll maintain his interest, no doubt, in the shed, but a general acknowledgement that he has been a great asset to Leichhardt with his way of dealing with people, which is very important in a club such as this. So all we can say at this stage, and many thanks will be passed on at the AGM, which is on next Sunday, but at this stage every member will acknowledge the great work that Stephen has done, both as a club captain over many years, as a more or less a social director from the time he walked in the shed, a former Victorian, and in here in New South Wales we've always forgiven him for that. But he's Stephen Duff, a Victorian who came up here and championed New South Wales rowing through his positions that he's held. Well, we've had a start now in the women's novice single scull. Well, the two starters are there, and on this side that's the glebe sculler, just starting to move into following the shape of the bay on this shore, and of course may have to cover a little bit more ground, so I think the boat race officials are moving her over to perhaps steer a little straighter. I think she's done it herself. Well done to the sculler from Glebe, Stella Lagan. She's changed the course she's been racing now, and doing quite a good job. Coached by Nick Galea, who has been doing a wonderful job round at the Glebe Rowing Club with the young people, particularly in the novice category. And she has now changed the course. She may have lost about a couple of lengths in following the shore round, which is an easy mistake to make when you're following the shore. But nevertheless, she's still in the running and doing a good job, sculling very well under coach round there, Nick Galea. And the University of New South Wales are very fortunate, of course, of having Chris Burns as their coach round there, and Sonny Park as the women's novice single sculler out there. It's a good standard of sculling, Liam, isn't it? A very good standard of sculling from these two novice scullers. These people have never faced a starter before. They've never faced a starter before, and if they have, they've never been successful. But generally it's they've never faced, could be their first season of rowing and sculling. Not an easy thing to do, but they're going very well. Very impressive row coming from the young sculler on this side. As we see Sunny Park about to take the win, and she'll be registered as the winner there. But the glebe sculler coming down here has done a great job, and doing a very good job as a novice sculler. I think the biggest task to do is to make sure you stay in your boat, but she's done a very good job. Both scullers showing all the sculls and love of the sport. As we see now, second place will go to the glebe sculler there. That's young Stella Lagan. Remember the names, because we're going to see big appearances of those in the next few years. Well, the next event will be the men's novice quad scull. This one.
Is that one on 20 past 11?
11:30. 11:30.
15 minutes.
Well, the shorter distance has helped. Would you consider moving to 500 metres?
I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem with us moving through. We just have to do it for this point. The only problem really today is the fact that we can't move.
Well, on the pontoon at the present moment and down at the landing, you can see the first of the tubs going into the water, a timber boat. Looks in very good condition, and you can see how big it is. The coxswain in the back has an enormous rudder, the same with the tub pairs that they used to have, but they had a very big rudder, very traditional, and it's attached on the back, and college, the universities themselves in the tubs, but now confined to history. But as part of the preparation for the JB series, when they expect, I think, to have more of this type of boat, then we hope to have more. Again, the man Kemp up on pairs and the tub sculls they were using those long slender blades that were a little bit longer than the blades they're using now, a long tapered blade. It was with the development of a boat called the what was it called? It was, I think, I don't know whether it was ever very successful. It was called the banana boat, and that it came into operation roundabout, or the attempted operation of the boat as a competitive boat, but they found that the crew that used it had to get a very high rate to keep the boat. Grammar shed up opposite Sydney Rowing Club, and then they moved to premises across alongside the Sydney Boys High School down there in those days as an old tin add-on. To to the shed, and then they built their own factory, or had their own factory around at further down the Parramatta River. And here we had full marks. I think we might have seen a young man in the bow seat as a coxswain there at Glebe some time ago. The Masters celebration through the Union of New South Wales Union of Rowers and the JB Sharp Series in particular. Next year will be the big year. We hope to see many more of these boats crewed in a particular event. But this boat was found in Horsham City Rowing Club in 2018. They were collected by Michael Kemp from Ebenezer, as I said, including the boats. He's got a number of boats up there which you'd be very interested to see. Make contact with ambience, the ambience of heritage about it. And great parking up there, and as I said before, a great run up, a picturesque run up to the property, and a pub not far away for a magnificent lunch. Women's double scull, Division 1. Well, the next event, the women's intermediate double scull, due to start at 11:40, and four crews entered for that, and 2 from Glebe. Abbotsford, the closest to us, will have Genez Rowe and Yvonne Conf, the development of young people in rowing through Robin Macney, a magnificent coach over many, many years. In lane 3 it will also be Glebe with Anne Skilton and Kate Warham, and then on the far side of the course well, this first division of the women's intermediate double scull, I don't know the young people in it, but I think they are all young people. I think they're new starters. I have certainly noticed the name down there, Inez Rowe, who raced off on Gale, so she's a new starter into the sport. But we see the Balmain guys going out. There's a chance now to have a look and see the old Chubb 4s, what they used to look like. You can see it doesn't have the canvas ends on it, which makes it a tub, and unlike the regulation 4s that we described previously. If you get a chance, you'll spot the coxswain before he gets in is carrying this large thing called a rudder. See? Oh, no, thank you. No, you're fine, thanks.
Tea or coffee or water?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah,
No, yeah, Nancy, I'm great, thank you. Well, you know, it live there, and you can imagine what the life must have been like down there on the Parramatta River in that large mansion down there, just down the road from Concord Hospital. And Dame Edith Walker had something similar to that boat, but it was in the two-man category. She wasn't a rower herself, but she loved being rowed round the harbour by two burly fellas in the that they used to use in those days, an open boat, to convert it to a whole range of things. One of which, as I recall, may have been stabling for the police horses. It's used generally by the public. It's not, I think it's a gisement for maybe for locals with their horses and things like that, but it's a magnificent property just down the road from Concord Hospital. And if you're down that one, drive round the whole of the property, unless someone stops you, just tell them that Liam James sent you. That's the children over there. But the wonderful property, Dame Edith Walker, don't forget the names, because there spawned the idea of travelling around Sydney Harbour in a rowboat, particularly if you're sitting up the back. And that's what we're going to see shortly. There is the Balmain crew going out in that magnificent, restored Tub 4. And as we see, that's race 20 on the program, due to start at 11:55. There'll be a number of crews racing in those old boats. In the meantime, back to racing now, and this is a women's intermediate double scull up there at the start. First division have the Abbotsford crew of Rowe and Konchek. Next out, Glebe with Hartley and Clifton, and of course no coxswains here, but in view of the perhaps lack of experience perhaps in double sculls, the course is remarkably accurate. Very good racing down here. They're keeping the separation between the four crews, and as you can see, the crew on this side, the Abbotsford crew of Rowe and Konchek, starting to probably about half a length or half a canvas out in front of the crew second. The Glebe crew from Skilton. Just moving up on a crew that was doing so well from Glebe, that was Skilton and Warham. They'd still be in front on the angle, but we'll wait and get a photo finish of this, because Glebe hanging on to a very slender lead down there will be Glebe going back to Leichhardt in second place, and third place then will go to the crew from lane 1, that's Abbotsford, and then followed by the second division of the women's intermediate double scull. We can only see two doubles there, so they have one scratching. Well, the original entries provided for three double sculls there. I'm not quite sure who's dropped out, but Portia Koskar and Audrey Abirikramima in the middle, and then another Leichhardt crew of Harrison, that's Ruby Harrison and Malika Jufiga, coached by Isaac Shepherd. As they come up to the line now, and a very good run coming from these. Geez, they're getting good length for the intermediate double scull. That's a very good combination out there. Figure. Well, we're coming up now to the second last race on the will be a well, after the men's Open 8 will be the race of the Titans in making use of the wooden boats. I think we saw a couple of Reg 4s, and there might even be a couple of the old Tub 4s as well.
Nope. I'm just going to see if I can lay this down in front. You're going to still be able to see some of what's going on if I have that at the moment. Sorry, sir. Are you still going to be able to...
And it's a wonderful thing because the presentations go along to a number of clubs, and it's a great recognition given to many young people and also those in the Masters category. Now the presentations also will include the amount of money paid to, once again, best performed club in the series, and more importantly to individuals for the best performance by the youngsters, best boy, best girl, and quite sizable amounts, $1,000. I mean, goes a long way towards helping with a young person's expenses in the development. And that's by courtesy of the JB Sharp committee.
Yep, so I'll just bring up the names. One sec.
The JB Sharp Regatta series itself started off, of course, going back many years ago in the 1920s, when a major manufacturing executive by the surname Sharp in furnishings in the Balmain area happened to be down in Victoria watching rowing, and I think he might have noticed the Tigers jersey down there at that stage. Finally found out that they had come from the same area for which he had a business going, and said interested, had a look at the shed down there. He loved looking at the sport, and it's been started off the JB Sharp Series Rowing Regatta with his sponsorship, if you like, at that time. And the Sharp family have continued that. A sponsorship now done through John Sharp, same name, and John, a former federal transport minister in the Howard government, has continued sponsorship through his connections with aviation in Queensland, and has continued to support it financially. We won't go into details of that, but John Sharp, you'll see his name mentioned because he's the man who in Australia is head of the aviation business called Rex Airlines. Rex standing for regional, and they've made in the last couple of years some great inroads into region travelling by aircraft. In the meantime, the second last race of the day coming down here now is the men's Open 8.
We haven't checked. None of them have said the appropriate things kind of getting on and off the pontoon. So, and they're all professionals, aren't they? No manual labourers in the boat.
Oh, you talking to me, were you?
No, talking to Barbara.
Well, here comes the Leichhardt 8 now with Roger Bly, Mark Thompson, Andrew Hine. I think Andrew Hine is a Lieutenant Colonel in the Australian Army. Scott Parks, David Cother, Nick Dorsch, Terry O'Rian, Andrew Mainsbridge, and Sandra Treluzzi is the coxswain. And they're in the Masters category. And like I said, the mainstay now of clubs that are called community rowing clubs. And community rowing clubs right throughout New South Wales and the regions do a great job in the administration of the sport beyond the environs of Sydney Harbour. So well done, fellas. Done a great job getting out there on the water and showing the flag. Now the presentation will start a little time after the last event, so don't be in a hurry to get away, and you can enjoy the presentations that go on of these remarkable trophies that you'll see on display on the first floor. The person who looks after the trophy has been Barbara Ramjan, who has been singularly insistent on the trophies being brought up to date, re-bronzed, re-glassed, just about every conceivable form of renovation you could happily get, and also added some extras on. It's a fantastic display. At any rate, make sure you stay and hear the presentations. And Barbara will be there and she can explain to you if you've got any questions about what's that for or what's that for. She'll be able to explain it to you. I think there's probably been valued at the display up there about several $100,000, hasn't it? Yeah, maybe even more. Hey? They're solid silver. Well, they're lining up now in these boats. Once again, you'll probably think we're harping about these timber boats, but there's a couple of individuals who've gone to a great deal of trouble in getting these to row on the water. All it is, it's the start at the present moment, all associated with the JB Sharp rowing, because, well, I think we'll see these boats featured next year, certainly, in the JB Sharp series.
What do I call these? The historic box type doors?
Yes. With those on the pontoon can move very quickly with your boats getting out of the water. There is a crew from Pymble Ladies College, and we do hope you have every success, Pymble. You could follow the women's soccer. We need to see Pymble Ladies College right up there on top this coming season. There we go. Someone turn around. You can hear us. Keep up the good smiles. You've done a great job.
What do you reckon about that one for the announcement?
What's that?
Tried to find
Very good. If you could move very quickly, the Leichhardt men's 8, so we can get Pymble on the water. Well, here come the timber boats. These old boats, and timber and Pymble might be interested in this as well. The boats that you see racing out there now, the last race of the day, are all the old timber boats that were used many years ago. They're the tub fours that were used by colleges, mainly boys' colleges, because girls weren't rowing in those days. There we go. And I think there is 1 tub, 2 tubs, and a regulation 4. Well, look at that. This is not, well, I suppose it's a race, but this is a display. Have a look at this. If you get a chance to look at this, this is history. There haven't been tub 4s or regulation 4s down on this course for over 50 or 60 years. And here they come now. What a magnificent sight. 2 from Balmain. That's the old tub 4s in the centre and on this side, and on the far side is the regulation 4. And what a great sight. You've just been witnessing history. And talking about witnessing history, when this men's 8 comes out of the water, they're all historians. Their history. And up they come. Well, there we go, and you noticed on the notices that went out a couple of weeks ago, they were looking for a head coach at Pymble Ladies College, and I don't know how that process is going, but to the person that gets it, what a wonderful experience, because a great school and great students, and we wish you well, Pymble, in your rowing career, particularly with your new coach this season. Well, if you're looking at the live stream now, you'll be able to see those 3 boats down there, and a very historical day in rowing down here at Iron Cove. As we said, these boats haven't been seen on these waters for many years. Oh, they're enjoying it so much they're rowing down to Haberfield now, I think. But and they disappear behind the trees. But look, it's been great fun today. This has been the last in the series for this season. And if you missed out on getting down here today, you've missed out on a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic regatta of the last series of the regatta. Good entries, but they could be a lot better for next season. And the JB Sharp series coming up to its 100th year, the centenary. And there'll be a lot of people working behind the scenes. Great trophies, but it's history in the making. And an attempt to get those timber boats down here for not just every race, but just for a few races. They're out of action now, of course, but many of them restored through Michael Kemp, whose grandfather was one of those great band of professional scullers. Most of you would recognize that professional sculling was the sport from the probably, let's say, dominant between 1860 and continued up to probably round about the Second World War. And in those days, of course, the big attraction was the betting that used to take place on their performances. And racing was held in the United States, on the Thames, over at England, and also here on Sydney Harbour, on the Parramatta River, and some of them even up as far as Grafton. So great racing in those days. The prize that they generally walked away with could have been a hotel a hotel that they'd win in their takings and in the money that they wanted betting. Hence the name the Tricket Regatta, which is a feature on New South Wales Rowing Association Regatta calendar. Tricket was the first Australian or international world champion in any sport, soccer included, and hence called the Tricket Regatta. That's it. Now don't forget, the presentations will be done up on the first floor of the clubhouse.
Just very quickly, that's a wrap then for the 2023 Leichhardt Rowing Club JB Sharp Regatta, the final regatta of the series. Once again, we will be having the series presentations in about half an hour at the first floor of the Leichhardt Rowing Club. And just want to say a very big thank you to Barry Monaghan, who has graced the microphone and the airwaves once again with his fantastic commentary, interesting information and historical facts. Thank you very much, Barry. It's been absolutely a pleasure, and we will see you all here next year.